Hi there and welcome to another workout for you to row along to. Now today's session I'm calling a cardiac offset row, where normally if you row for 30 minutes, even at 20 strokes a minute, chances are your heart rate will increase and increase and increase towards the end of that row. Now what we're going to do today is I'm going to row 30 minutes but break it into 10-minute intervals with 1 minute rest in between. And you're going to slow down your pace and stroke rate as you go through those intervals. So you start off at 22 strokes a minute, then the next interval you do at 20 and then the next at 18. And your pace is going to drop by 3 seconds and then 2 seconds as you go through these intervals. And hopefully what that's going to mean is that where your heart rate's going to want to climb and climb and climb, it'll hopefully shelve off and hold around about 65 to 70% of your max heart rate by the time you get to the end of the row. And that's going to keep this as a nice low intensity workout, that real fitness building thing that's so important to your rowing. All right. Now I'll tell you more about the specific paces and stuff when we get into the main session and stuff, but for the time being I want to get right into a 4-minute warm-up, okay, as we always do. So we have to start off by setting up our machine. Now in the concept 2, that means on the other side you set your drag factor with the lever to where you want it to be. All right, if you don't know about drag factor, please do check out the video I have here on YouTube. Next up, if you can, set your monitor to eye height so you don't have to look up and you don't have to look down. And finally, if you can adjust those foot stretchers, set them to a position where you're able to come to the front of the stroke with your shins vertical. Okay, if you can not quite get there, chances are you're set too high. If you're scooting straight past, chances are you're set too low. Okay, a good guide is that the strap covers the balls of your feet. All right, so 4-minute warm-up. We're going to start this just at an intensity where it's almost like a body weight squat, as though you're standing up. Okay, because all I want you to think about is connecting your feet to your hands. I will explain as we start. All right, it's a bit sunny, so I'm going to go into rude sunglasses mode. Right, here we go then. So warm up in 3, 2, 1, let's go. A nice low stroke rate. I'm going to do this around about 18 to 20 strokes a minute. And I just want to concentrate on pushing my feet into the machine at the same time that my hands connect the handle to the machine. So in this case, for concept 2, that means that the chain starts to pull the flywheel. But you might be on a water rower or magnetic rower or something, that's fine. But this principle has to remain that you push your feet as your hands connect to the flywheel. And if you can keep nice straight arms as you do that, then the power should transfer up through your body into the machine. Just think for the next minute about increasing that push with your legs slightly. Just row a little bit faster. If you know your 2K training pace, then try and get to round about 2K plus 20, which will be round about 5 out of 10 from a effort scale. Enough that your breathing gets a little bit heavier and your heart rate goes up a little bit, but not so much that you're really breathing very hard or starting to get tired. After all, this is a warm-up, not a hit the ground running up. Okay, 3 more strokes. And then we'll put 1 foot on the ground. 1 more. So just 1 foot on the ground and continue rowing with the one that is still strapped in to the machine. So just think about that push with the leg here. Because you've only got one in, you can really focus on push with that leg. Push. Okay, 2 more here, and we'll swap over legs. Let's swap. Very easy for me, of course, because I'm in socks. Now this, having one leg in, can really help with that feeling of your body, upper body rocking forwards and backwards, leaning into the front of the machine to a 1 o'clock position, and then to the back at 11. Of course, that's flipped today because my camera's the other way around. Okay, Let's put both feet in, legs straight, and you're going to practice that rock. Straight arms, rock over your back, then pull in your arms. Then out with your arms, rock back, forwards again. So you're just hinging over your hips, backwards and forwards, taking up the initial force of the flywheel with your back, and then finishing with your arms. One more here, and then let's roll to the front. Straight arms, hold that forward tilt, and just push out with your legs. Not too hard, because I want you to hold this forward tilt and straight arms as you push. And I want you to think about engaging your core here. And your core, remember, is around your back as well as around your front. And that's what you want to hold powerful. One more. Oh, that's it. That's a quick four-minute warm-up, isn't it? That flew by today. So I'm going to be rude and put up a splash screen saying please stretch or whatever while I have a quick drink, and then we'll get in and ready for the main session. So if you haven't already, then please have a quick drink while I really quickly go over what it is we're doing today. We're going to do 3 10-minute intervals with 1 minute rest in between. The first of these you're going to do at 22 strokes a minute and round about 2k plus 15 pace, which is kind of 6 to 7 out of 10 intensity, closer to 6 than it is to 7. The important thing though is that as you go into the next interval, which will be at 20 strokes a minute, you slow down your pace by round about 3 seconds to take you to 2k plus 18, the standard pace for a 20 stroke kind of training route like this. And then as you go to the last of these intervals, you slow down your stroke rate to round about 18 strokes a minute, and you then slow down again by about 2 seconds this time. All right, so as your stroke rate goes down, your pace goes down, and that's really important. All right, so we might as well get into our first 10-minute interval. So this is going to be at 22 strokes a minute, 2k plus 15 pace. That's 15 seconds slower than your 2k average pace, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, please read the description on this video. It all explains where everything is. We're going to do that for 10 minutes, and then we'll take a 1 minute rest, have a quick drink, and then we get into the next one. All right, here we go then. In 3, 2, 1, go. At 22 strokes a minute, it's always just that little bit awkward for me. I'm so used to doing 20 or 24. But it's just a matter of rhythm. Once you hit your rhythm and you know you're doing it at 20 strokes or 22 strokes a minute, it should then be easy enough to hold your stroke rate for the row. I mean, 20 strokes a minute is easier because it's 1 stroke every 3 seconds. 24 is 1 stroke every 2.5 seconds. So, but can't use the timer for 22. So if you're following me for stroke rate, you may notice we bump up to 23 every now and then, or down to 21 again, but don't worry about it. We'll make sure and still be 22 strokes every minute. Now, the point for today's row is not just this idea of offsetting cardiac drift, but also to try and get you used to having like a natural pace for your stroke rates for training rows, so that for a session like this, as you climb on to do 22 strokes a minute, you pretty much automatically hit 2k plus 15 pace. Or if you're using an effort scale, you'll be at similar pace to what you are right now. And then when we move to 20 strokes a minute, then that should be, that pace you row at should be your kind of bread and butter speed for rowing at 20 strokes a minute. The same with 18. That's not to say you will always row at this pace, at these stroke rates, but for training rows, it can be really useful to have a consistent pace, because it lets you gauge your intensity through your training. So 20 strokes a minute at 2k plus 18 pace should be a very low intensity UT2 training, you may have heard it called, where your heart rate doesn't go too high, kind of 65, 70% of maximum, and it doesn't feel too intense, but you know you're still working. And then as you get up to like 26 strokes a minute, you'll be rowing closer to 2k plus 9 pace. And that's when it starts to get, the intensity starts to get up properly into a mid-tier intensity where you need to kind of concentrate and push in order to hold your pace. It's not quite as, like I say, bread and butter as the 20 strokes a minute pace. And then once you get up to like 30 and above, that's when you start to hit the faster sprinty paces and top tier intensity. It's not to say that you can't make a 20 stroke per minute row feel like a top tier. All you do is put in as hard a push into the machine as you can, and you'll find that pretty soon that starts to get tough. And after about 15 minutes or so of that, you will be right up in the top tier, oh my gosh, can I do half an hour at this pace stage. But what I'm trying to say is that if you can sit down and row at 20 strokes a minute at a normal training pace, you should be able to, even with your eyes closed, be round about 2k plus 18 as your natural pace, or in the instance of the stroke rate we're rowing at right now, 22 strokes a minute should be kind of naturally 2k plus 15. So I made a bunch of videos for this channel that are just me rowing at different stroke rates for people to
use as like a visual metronome. And what I found, so I went from 15 up to, I think it was 32, the fastest. And I found that pretty much, well, 15 didn't count, but from 18 strokes onwards, every time I increased the stroke rate by 2 clicks, I would row 2 seconds per 500 meters faster. Without even thinking about it, I just strapped in and rowed at the right tempo for the stroke rate, and naturally hit the rates, or sorry, the paces that I set for my training. And that's kind of what you want. That if you can think almost like bike gears, where the low stroke rate stuff is the easy, low intensity, and then the higher your stroke rate, the faster you will go. And that way there's an element of control to your rowing, especially during your training. When you're racing, you just want to get as much speed out of the machine as you can, so it's a different matter. But when you're training, you want an element of control so you can adjust your intensity. Okay, 2 more strokes. Ugh, can't believe I spoke for 10 minutes about the importance of stroke rate and pace, or the link. Make sure and have a drink in this 1 minute. Especially if you're rowing outside like I am. It's not that warm, but well, it is. I can feel the heat coming from the sun. But it's only about like 13 degrees or something, so it's not actually that hot. But being outside in the sun, it just makes a huge difference, and you don't want dehydration to set in. That's a bad thing to happen, because then you start to just fatigue. 10 seconds to go into the next one. You fatigue without really actually getting properly tired from your muscles. 3, 2, 1. 20 strokes a minute and 2k plus 18 pace, or kind of 5 to 6 out of 10 on an effort scale. Now, the thing about the effort scale is that depending on how fit you are, those 10 minutes, may have knocked the edge off your fitness and things, and so 6 out of 10 might actually be a lot slower than it should be. So really all I want you to do is, if you use an effort scale for that first interval, all I want you to do for this one is to row, is to row 3 seconds slower than you averaged for the last one. I don't think she agrees. I think the dog has an issue with my coaching. Yeah, so 3 seconds slower pace on this one than you were in the last one. Because the problem with using that intensity out of 10 scale is that it can change either from day to day or through the workout itself. Which is why it's much better to have some kind of training baseline. That's the word I'm looking for. Sorry, you can tell I completely lost my words there. So you want a constant baseline that you can attach your training intensity to. So if you row a 2 kilometer time trial, divide the total time by 4, that gives you your average pace to cover 500 meters in that 2k time trial. And that's your 2k training pace. And that is something that only changes when you do another time trial. So if I did it in 8 minutes, that gives me a 2k training pace of 2 minutes. And so right now, I would be rowing at 2 minutes 18 pace. That's what 2k plus 18 is. But if I came back, did another 2k time trial a few weeks after, and I'd increased my speed from 8 minutes to 7 minutes 40. My new 2k training pace would be 1 minute 55. And I would now be rowing at 2 minutes 13 because it's attached to my ability, not some random effort out of 10 or worse, if somebody actually said to row at a specific pace, as in everyone around the world should row this at 2 minutes 5 pace, for instance. That's not right. And so your 2k time travels with you to every training session you do, every gym, every rowing club. The only time really you don't want to think about it is when you're racing, and even then your previous 2k time is still something you want to have in the back of your mind so that you at least start off at that pace and then try to increase as you go through your race. I understand though, a lot of people just don't like a 2k. It's a lot of hard work, and it does take quite a lot of mental fortitude, let's say, in order to keep the intensity up for anywhere between like 6 and 10 minutes, depending on your ability. But if you're actually training for performance games, you do need some kind of a baseline so that you can come back and test whether you've improved or not. Occurs to me that apart from the warm-up, I haven't talked at all about technique today, which is very much unlike me. Let's just say It's to do with trying to let you find your own rhythm and form. Let's spend the next 3 minutes and possibly into the next interval talking technique. So, like I said in the warm-up, the important thing is that you get the power by pushing with your feet, and if your arms are straight and you connect to the flywheel or water wheel, etc., at the very instant you push with your feet and you keep those arms straight and you keep a forward tilt into the front of the machine, then that power surges from your legs into the machine without you adding any extra force from your back or your arms. You're just hanging off the handle as that power flows from feet to hands to the machine. But there are quite a few, quite a few body tweaks you can do to help that. For instance, a braced core at the front as you push. So you make sure your back is powerful, or your lower back is powerful and braced against that push. Because if you are all saggy, all that happens is your backside goes out and then you have a very lumpy stroke. As opposed to letting the power flow. Now your core is important. The only time your core isn't really engaged is here. Here. So you finish the stroke, get into that forward rock, your knees bend to bring you forwards, and then you can disengage your core. But from the catch here to the drive to the recover to the release, more like, you have to stay engaged. One more stroke. Another minute rest. So my heart rate's 150, which I think that's bang on 75% of my maximum rowing heart rate. Make sure to drink. Oh, it's like how I seem to have come dressed as a lifeguard today. It's like I'm auditioning for Baywatch. I have to start rowing in slow motion. Although the green sunglasses don't really match. But hey. Right, last one. Now down to 18 strokes a minute in 10 seconds time. And another 2 seconds slower than you were just rowing at. 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And hopefully just reducing your stroke rate here is enough for you to have dropped off 2 seconds pace. And this is why technique is so important. If you have a consistent stroke in terms of your body position and kind of the feel of the push with your legs, then that should be, I've got sweat in my eyes, that should be all it takes, a change in stroke rate, to reduce your pace. There's definitely elements where at 18 it's more important to get that timing right because the stroke rate's so slow. But this is why we have these, why we spend so much time rowing at like 18 or 20 strokes a minute, is that this is where it's so important to get that connection timing here correct. You can't really hide from it. At higher stroke rates, you can compensate by pulling early with your arms and using upper body grunt. But because at 18, the flywheel or water wheel slows down so much, if you get the timing wrong, you'll find you'll not be able to hit your pace and or it becomes really quite a high intensity workout as you're doing it all with your upper body, because you're getting the timing of your feet connecting to the machine wrong. Because even my legs, which aren't big by any rowing imagination, are still a lot bigger than my arms. So it makes sense that I want to get the majority of the power to pick up and restart up the flywheel to come from my big muscles, and then top off the power as my back swings over my hips and my arms pull into a finish. So if I were to grab early from the front, suddenly I'm getting a great arm workout, but my legs are just swinging in the wind. And that's not why I'm on the rowing machine. I'm on here to row as efficiently, as quickly, and as safely as possible. And that's what technique can do for you, is that if you use your legs back, arms back, legs through the stroke, you are using 85-ish% of your muscles. And that gives you the pretty much all over body workout that you'll have read about in various magazines and things. Whereas if all you do is come forwards, pull with your arms, and you're not using your legs, you're using like 20% of your available muscles. So that means you're not going to be rowing as powerfully or as efficiently, and certainly you're going to get injured. Whether it's your traps, whether it's your biceps, your forearms, your shoulders, or even your lower back. If all you're doing is yanking on the handle, it's not giving you the workout you should get. If you want a good arm workout in the same way, just go on the seated row machine, where it is just you pulling with nothing else. But when you're on the rowing machine, try and think about using the muscles you should be using in order to row efficiently. So if you get it right, you get a good core workout, especially at the back of the stroke here as you brace here into the finish, and then as you rock forwards, your core is what brings you up nice and stable. Whereas if you have a really collapsed posture and you just slump to finish, you're not using your core at all. So, technique, and not just because it gives me something to talk about for half an hour. I feel the downside to the stuff that I'm talking about today, it's not very entertaining, is it? I need to throw in the odd joke just to try and make this a little bit less dry. But I said before that really there's going to be a subsection of people that do listen intently to everything I say, in which case, sorry. But well, the flip side to that is there'll be people that just put on music and just use me as a visual reference for stroke rate, in which case I can be rude about you lot because you won't hear me. But then there's the in-between people that will row a session like this along with me, but my chat is like white noise, where every now and then you tune into what I'm saying, but most of the time you're just rowing and the sound of my voice is keeping you company. I swear I can smell cigar smoke. Maybe it's my freshly painted deck, ready for another summer. Could be releasing some toxic fumes in the sun. Let's hope not, eh? I mean, one of the reasons, to be transparent, one of the reasons that this is today's session is that I'm recovering from another cold. Just, who knows where, anyway. So it's kind of in my chest. You can maybe hear it in my voice that I'm a little bit thin sounding. If only I was a little bit thin looking. Hey, but what it means is that it's my first proper row back after this cold. This is a good one to not overdo things, even if this was the other way around. If we started at 18 and ended at 22, that could be a bit too much as a first row back post cold. Let's just hope it's not a return of COVID, eh? Okay, one more. There we go. So, yeah, so last time, at the end of interval 2, I finished at 150 BPM. End of that one, 145, so my heart rate went down. So like I say, it's the offset of cardiac drift. Let me quickly load up a 2-minute cooldown. There we go. Got my iPad sitting next to me because I'm using my phone to film it today instead of my big posh camera. It's all very good, but it doesn't adjust the light because the sun comes in and out of the clouds, whereas I think the iPhone does. So I can still smell cigar. Anyway, it's a good thing I like the smell of cigar. So cool down, run about 18 strokes a minute, run about 4 out of 10 effort, run about 2k plus 30 pace. All right, in 3, 2, 1, go. Don't know why I like the smell of a cigar. You think I'd probably be like, oh no, you smoke, I choke. But I do like it. It's like a pipe. I like the smell of a pipe as well. I'm not that fond of the smell of cigarettes, must be said. And this is, I confess, as someone who used to smoke until my early 20s. I was a smoker, which, you know what, when you're in your teens, you're indestructible, aren't you? Nothing's ever going to go wrong. You never look further than your nose in terms of the future. But now, kind of 20 odd years later, I kind of regret my days smoking. Downside was, when I was 17, there was a girl, it's always a girl, isn't it? It's always a girl, who I was absolutely besotted by, totally in love with. My first ever proper falling in love with her girlfriend. And she said to me one night when we were out, you know, you look really cool when you smoke. That must have kept me smoking for a good 4 years after we split up. But yeah, not anymore. I do wonder about what I could have been able to achieve as a squash player and stuff if I wasn't smoking at the same time. But hey, we make mistakes. So, last one here. Oh, so, try and get the sweat out of my eyes. Now, I'll quickly go into a little bit of stretching. If you don't have time to stretch, then I do recommend at least stretching off your quads and your hamstrings at one point, especially if you're about to go and sit down at a desk or something. Otherwise, please find yourself somewhere nice and comfortable. And what side is you going to go be in today? That side. Stretching John should just have appeared in the top corner. Maybe you came over that side just to make a fool out of me. Yeah, and he will take you through a variety of stretches from quads to hip flexors, hamstrings, glutes, biceps, triceps, shoulders, and there's always something else. Forearms. Yeah, and just remember for the biceps one, you pretend you're flying and then you rotate your thumbs outwards, okay? So outwards, not inwards, but outwards. And what that does is that rotation elongates the long head of your bicep, and that's kind of how you get a really nice stretch from your biceps. Or this is how I do them all. You may have your own set of stretches, in which case do them. You may stretch each of these muscles in a slightly different way, in which case do it the way you do it. But grumpy stretchy John up in the top corner is just showing you how I do things, in case you've never really thought about stretching or anything like that. All right? So I hope you enjoyed it. I mean, it was a really, really, really simple, low intensity row today. So this is not, you're not gonna, dear diary, today I did the most fantastic row ever. It was the most intense. No, it's not one of them. It's one of these ones where you're just like, I want to row for 30 minutes, but I don't really want to do anything that's going to test me. I want to make sure and build up my core fitness and stuff, burn some calories, which out of interest today, according to my watch, is 400 active calories and 500 total calories. So that's quite handy. That means I can go in and have a nice chicken noodle lunch, and it's gone. So from that point of view, it's been a perfect row. From the point of view of I didn't want to stress my lungs or anything from recovering from this cold. Perfect. And from a chance to work on technique and stuff, perfect. And that's why we mix up in these kind of intensities of sessions throughout workouts. And to be honest, why there's more of these, because the building of your core fitness and the chance to work on your technique is some of the most vital things you can do. Top end pace and being able to embrace the discomfort of a really tough row is really important, but you can't really get there if you don't have the core fitness and you don't have a decent technique. So this is why nearly all training plans will mix up the kind of at least the 3 tiers of workout, or the kind of bottom intensity ones, the mid intensity and the top intensity, so that you get a variety of how your body works and what you expose it to. But you will see that, like much like a pyramid, the bottom intensity ones, there's more of them, that foundation, there's loads. But then the middle intensity, there's less of them, but they're still really important. And then the top intensity, there's only really 1 or 2 of them maximum a week that you're going to do. And then remember, beneath all of this, beneath this entire pyramid, like an iceberg, where underneath your pyramid is rest days, and they are they're the granite that holds it all in place, is the rest days. That if you don't factor in at least 1 rest day, I mean, recommended is at least 2 rest days, preferable is 3 rest days, but who's going to do that? Just the importance of a rest day in terms of letting your body go, and giving a chance for all your muscle fibers to re-knit together and stuff, and for your blood system to just kind of go, right, oof, let's just move on and stuff. So it's really, 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 really important that you factor in a rest day. So you get your top, your mid, your bottom, and then, like I say, the underneath that, like an iceberg, is these rest days that are there to kind of, they're like the scaffolding that holds everything together as the rest day, and then as you stop it, you get more scaffolding and things. So how many analogies can I throw at this? So that's the point, okay? So that's the point of training. And so a row like this today is one of these kind of bottom tier ones. You can have lots of different ways to do these bottom tier ones. Like today is a really, really, really easy one. You could do the 30 minutes of 20 strokes a minute, which is a little bit, it's like a slightly higher intensity. So your kind of bottom tier has like, kind of still has like 4 or 5 different levels to it. Today's one was very, very, very bottom, whereas the 30 minutes of 20 strokes a minute is going to be like quite close to the top of that bottom tier intensity before it becomes mid in terms of your heart rate exertion and stuff. So, but then there's a whole other can of worms, is whether you train with heart rate or train with intensity of like your pace to your 2K thing. So I'm not going to go anywhere near that, because there lies monsters. Not really. Right, okay, I'm done. Okay. Yep, like the dog says, I'm done. So you make sure and look after yourselves. I will see you in a future video. Can I get this outro done before she barks again? Probably not. Yeah, I'll see you in a future video. Make sure to leave some kind of a comment below as to whether you enjoyed this one or not. I hope you did. But like I say, it was a very, very low intensity one, so it's a chance you might want to go into some light weights or something afterwards. I didn't get to the end, did I? So anyway, you all look after yourselves. I'll see you in a future video. Stay safe, be well. Bye-bye. You say goodbye? No, dog doesn't say goodbye. See ya.